Do you want to know more about modern professions, but are afraid of asking a silly question? We will ask all the questions to the professionals for you, and they will tell you how everything really is.
I said, I don't like coffee. He's like, really? You're going to enjoy this coffee. That's the cat shit coffee. Just think, this cat ate a coffee bean. You want to bring out the acidity, the balance, the flavors. Hi, I'm Terry Masikewich, owner of Prairie Lily Coffee Roasters here in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan. I am a coffee roaster. So a number of years ago, I was on a trip to Europe. We were in Budapest, Hungary. A friend of mine asked me, hey, let's go for a coffee. I said, I don't like coffee. He's like, really? You're going to enjoy this coffee. So we get in, I had a beautiful latte. After that, I fell in love with coffee. I like to source my coffee beans direct from the farmer, whether they're in Panama, Colombia, Guatemala. I phone them or find them on social media, ask for a sample. They send me the sample, I roast it myself, and then I make a decision if I would like to purchase those beans. My favorite coffee origin is from Panama at the moment. A coffee company named Jansen Coffee Farms. Their coffees are amazing, floral, fruity, lots of flavors within them. It's from the Geisha varietal, and these coffees are just amazing. So what I like to do is do a sample roast. And some of these sample roasts I'll take 3 or 4 times to roast a bean to a different perspective of that bean. So one I stop at 45 seconds, maybe. One I'll do after 55 seconds. One I'll roast a little bit darker. One I'll roast a little bit lighter. And then I'll taste them. And from those 4 samples, let's say, I can determine where my next roast would go. Right now, there was a fellow named Sasha Sestek, world barista champion. He invented a tool called the OCD. This tool has made my espresso game even better. Almost sounds like a commercial, but it was really good. Cupping is what we do to taste different coffees, to taste different profiles of a coffee bean or a roast. And what we do is we put them in bowls and we let them sit for about 4.5 minutes. We grind them, put them in the bowls, add water, and then we grab a spoon and we take it and we can taste exactly what it is within the roast and the bean that we are looking for. Consistency is done by a computer program that I have, and it measures each coffee roast that I do, so I can go back later, look at it and see. And what we try and do is, let's say we have 10 roasts of that same coffee, we ensure that each roast is identical from the start to the beginning. So recently I purchased some coffee beans from the Best of Panama. Best of Panama is a coffee competition among producers in Panama. And some at this competition are the most expensive coffee beans ever sold in the world. The winning coffee lot sold for over $1,200 per kilogram. The lot I purchased was a coffee that I paid $200 a kilogram. And I roast 1.5 kilograms in my roaster, so it was about $300 or 300 kilograms for that roast in my own roaster. So I was a little terrified of making a mistake and that those beans weren't going to turn out properly. This is 70 kilograms. I paid $14,000 for 50 kilos. Yeah, it's crazy. The Golden Bean is a coffee roasting competition for North America. It includes United States, Mexico, and Canada. It's a place where roasters get together, fellow roasters. This year in 2022, they had over 250 roasters. Over 1,000 coffees were entered for the competition. and you have to roast a coffee for an espresso, for a pour over, and a milk-based drink. And within those three categories, they take the highest scores, combine them, and then they choose an overall roasting champion. I was fortunate to win. I was overall champion in 2022, and it was pretty awesome. I like espresso coffee for its versatility. We can drink espresso by itself. We can make a milk drink like a latte or a cappuccino, or as they did in Italy after the war, they made Americanos, water and espresso. It's a very versatile way of drinking coffee. So the coffee cherry is the cherry that is produced by the coffee tree, which inside that coffee cherry are two beans. Usually there's two beans. Sometimes there's only one. It's called a pea berry. But let's talk about two beans. Within that coffee cherry are the two beans that I receive called green beans. These green beans are sent to me. Once I get them, I put them in my roaster and turn them brown. The coffee cherries processed, there's a few different ways, but we're going to talk about the two main ways. One's a washed coffee bean and one's a natural coffee. So a washed coffee bean, they take off on the side of the cherry is like the mucilage, the meat of a cherry. They run it through a depulper and it exposes the two beans inside. Once those beans have a little bit more of meat, then they run them through this water process. The water washes the bean and makes it perfectly clean. They take that bean and then they dry them out on patios, cement patios, until they reach a certain humidity, usually 13%, let's say. The other process is called a natural process. And what they do with that is they just leave the entire cherry together and they take that cherry and they'll put it out onto patios. And these patios dry naturally by the sun. And with that, the shell and the meat dries up and it eventually falls off the coffee bean. They take that coffee bean, kind of clean it a little bit, and that's what produces a natural coffee. At home, the biggest tip I can give you is make sure it's ground properly. Espresso, really fine. V60 or filter, medium fine. And if it's French press, we want to go as coarse as we can. Yes, I offer barista training. We can come on an espresso machine. I'll teach you how to grind your coffee, how to brew the coffee, and then we'll do milk steaming so that you get that beautiful latte art. Usually the bags that coffee roasters like myself give you, they're the perfect way. They have a degassing valve, they have a twist tie, and inside those bags, it's aluminum foil, and it preserves freshness for up to 6 months. Well, I have to say my favorite coffee shop is that very first one that I had my very first latte in, and it was in Budapest, Hungary. But if you ever come to mine, it may be yours. Cold brew is taking roasted coffee beans, grinding them, and putting them in cold water. Usually I like to put mine in the fridge for up to 18 to 24 hours. My favorite roast is my border marker blend. It's a roasted medium dark, and it just adds a lot of flavor for your cold brew. People like to make a cold brew latte out of them. They add milk. Delicious. I like decaf. A lot of people give decaf a bad name, but within coffee, there's a drug, caffeine. You might know it. A lot of people drink coffee just for the caffeine. But decaffeinated coffee has no caffeine. 99.9% is removed. And people who drink decaf really love the flavor of coffee. So if you are one who can't handle the caffeine, then try a decaf. Coffee varietals. Oh, coffees. There's hundreds of different varietals. The main ones that we like, Arabica is your primary coffee type. If you're not drinking Arabica, don't drink it. Varietals of coffee, Typica, Catuai, there's Mocha, there's Geisha, there's Heirloom, many varietals in coffee. I think that what makes the best cup of coffee is a very well roasted bean and good friends. It's always the best time to sit down, chat over a cup of coffee. The green bean itself, a lot of coffees have defects from the farm. Bugs, beetles, they don't get ripe properly, or the coffee cherry falls on the ground, and some coffee producers pick those off the ground, and you don't want to drink those coffee beans. Kopi Luwak. I hope you never ever try Kopi Luwak. That's the cat shit coffee. Just think, this cat ate a coffee bean and shit it out. Is it going to taste good? No, it is not going to taste good. So don't fall for the marketing on cat shit coffee. Instead, look for a roaster in your area and buy some well-roasted green coffee beans from them. The biggest challenge coffee roasters are facing now is, the world's changing, and it's getting harder for some of these producers to produce as many beans as they used to, and everybody wants a really good bean. So prices are getting more expensive, production is going lower. So yeah, that's a big challenge for us. So originally, there's a little confusion on where beans started from, Ethiopia or Yemen. Once those beans were distributed around the world, they all started to taste a little bit differently. So coffee from Ethiopia will taste different than a coffee from Guatemala or Brazil. Some sailors came and they put them in Costa Rica, Colombia, Panama. Those coffees taste very similar because of the high mountainous ranges that they're grown on, similar to in Ethiopia. So each country, you can define a flavor for them. So Panama will taste very different than a Guatemalan coffee. Guatemalan coffee will taste different than a Brazil coffee. So the production of those beans is determined by where it's grown, or the flavor profile is determined by where it's grown. Well, espresso was invented in Italy in the early 1900s. And, those Italians, they like to talk a lot and visit and stuff. And so the cafe owners wanted a way to get the workers back to work. So instead of having a big cup of coffee, they invented this tiny little espresso, usually 1 ounce or 2 ounce, so they could drink quickly and get back to work. Did you know that the Americano was invented in Italy after the war? The Americans were stationed and they didn't like espresso-based drinks. So when they made their espresso, they added water to it. And the locals started calling it their drink called Americano. Now you know. Traditionally, we used to roast coffee really, really dark. And dark roasted coffee has its unique taste to it. But over the years, they found coffee produced in different countries has a different flavor profile for those beans. So we've started roasting lighter and lighter. And the reason for that is because within those beans, there's such a great flavor of them. So I think from dark roast to light roast is a big change that's happening in the world of coffee. My favorite light roasted coffee is coffee from Colombia at the moment called Micava. And Micava, it's very fruity, floral, beautifully balanced, a nice acidity, and a great body. So in the world of coffee, coffee is graded by a scoring system from 0 to 100. From 0 to 80 the beans are called premium coffee beans. From 80 to 100, usually the best beans, are called specialty coffee beans. The difference in those is one is the production of these beans. Premium beans are grown lower on a mountainside, whereas the specialty coffee beans are grown high on the mountainside, anywhere from 1,200 meters up to 2,200 meters. To study to become a coffee roaster, I went to a place in Sandpoint, Idaho at the Dietrich Coffee Roaster Manufacturing Facility, and they have a course that you can take. So it was 4 days long, and they go every possible thing you can imagine about roasting a coffee bean. If you would like to be a coffee roaster, the best advice I can give you is just source as many different coffee roasters as you can and taste those coffees and find out where their roasting is according to what you like to drink or taste in the coffees. Because we're all different, and I can roast a coffee bean differently than another coffee roaster. You may like theirs better, you may like mine better, but the best way to do it is just source and drink as many coffees as you can. Single origin coffee is coffee that is direct from one country. So if I have an Ethiopian coffee, it's only from Ethiopia. If I want to make a blend, then I'll take an Ethiopian, Guatemalan, possibly a Brazil, combine them all together, and we'll call that a blend. The most popular coffee roast in my shop is my Northern Delight. Northern Delight is a blend, and it is blended from 4 different countries, and I use it for my espresso-based coffees. Beautiful espresso, stone fruits, peaches, oranges. When paired with milk, it turns into this milk chocolatey, cocoa, caramel, beautiful. At home, the best tip I can give you is to make sure your coffee is ground for the type of brewing that you're doing. If it's a V60, make sure that you grind it nice, medium, fine. If you're brewing for espresso, make sure it's fine ground. And if you're at home and you decide to brew a French press, couldn't remember. If you're brewing a French press, you want a really coarse grind. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, you want a coffee now? Lights on, camera, action.